Hello everyone, it's Karina with Karina Loves to Plan. Welcome back to my channel. I am here for the second part of 15 inks 30 days. So this will be ink 6 through 10. So 5 new pen and ink pairings that I will be exploring this week. Yeah, whatever. So I will be writing them down in my Hobonichi A5 notebook. I will also be doing paper swatches and Zentangles in my Hobonichi A6 Hone, but I don't show this on camera, but I'll also be using the inks in my work notebook as well as my multi-year journal. So let's get started. The first pen and ink combination I have is Wearingeul, the Star Child, and it's part of the Oscar Wilde series, but like, look at the shimmer that is in that bottle. Crazy. Ooh, did I almost spill that? And I have that inked in my Asvine P20. So I need to agitate that a little bit here to make sure that I can get the shimmer, and also make sure to, there we go, let the ink flow. But what I've already done is I've put some of that into my palette here so that I can use this for painting as well without contaminating what's in the bottle. So I'm using my Speedball B nib, which you can purchase off Amazon. I've actually got a link to this in the description below. And then I'm using my River City Pen Co. nib holder and writing out the number 6. They're turning out okay. They're not the most amazing things I've ever done, but they are not too bad. There we go. Lovely. And then I'm going to use my Kakimori stainless steel nib to get the different line widths here. I'll also do some figure 8s. Oh, lovely. The shimmer on this is actually working out really, really well. Beautiful. This is not a color that I originally would have gone with, but I thought, why not try something different? And this is actually the ink that I'm using in my A6 5-year journal. So making sure that I've agitated the pen there to get all of the shimmer. And so the ink is Wearingeul, the Star Child, and the pen is my Asvine P20, and this is the frosted clear, I believe it's what it's called, and this has a fine nib. All right, so now we're in my Hobonichi A6 Hone, and I'm going to paint on the Tomoe River paper. Now this is the 2023-2024 paper, so different than what's in the planners this year. Now I'm painting on the Rhodia paper. Okay, just as a caveat, nobody has to put this much effort into their inked journal. I do this because it's fun for me. This is not something that is mandatory for everyone to do with their 15 inks 30 days. I do this because I have fun doing it, but also it's something that's manageable for me. All right, so there's that. Let's go ahead and do the rose. And I love painting the rose because it's such a fun way to see the shading in this ink. In all inks, really. But also I just like the emotion of the light stroke, heavy, light, and being able to just practice that very basic movement to get a really lovely, beautiful rose. Oh, I like that. Beautiful. So I'm now going to measure out my Zentangle grid using my Michaels ruler. I bought this back in 2007 and I get a lot of questions about it, and I apologize, I don't know where you can get another one. And then I'm going to draw out the Zentangle Most of my Zentangles are from Varney Kikarni on Instagram, and I've included a link to their account in the description below. But what I love about the Zentangles is just the way that the ink pools when you're going over the same spot over and over again. It's just so relaxing and fun. This ink is so fun and it flows well out of this fine nib. And I find the shimmer a bit inconsistent, but otherwise it's a really great combo. I gave the ink an 8 due to that shimmer inconsistency, the flow a 9, and the comfort level of the Asvine V126. I realized I called it P20. Sorry. The Asvine V126, an 8. I know I'm going to have people come at me and saying, you called it a P20. I know somebody said V for vac-fill, P for piston. So I will remember that going forward. So yeah, this using the V126 for my A6 5-year journal, I've loved being able to play around with the vac-fill. Now, my only thing with this pen though is that it does just feel a little bit like slightly narrow and almost too light for my hand. So it may not be something I necessarily keep. I may end up giving this to my dad or to my husband, but it's just so fun seeing the ink slosh around in there. Very, very cool. So I'll show you the Zentangle. So there is the Star Child on the different papers. You don't see as much shimmer on here. You do definitely see it on Tomoe River paper, but not so much on the other papers here. There isn't a huge difference in color for me between the different papers, although it is slightly lighter on the Yamamoto Bank and the Bank, but it definitely has that same tone of orange. I love all the shimmer that you're seeing on that Zentangle. Like that was just so, so fun. However, again, not as much shimmer in the rose, but really a great ink. And I think I'll definitely keep this one in my collection going forward and probably use it in the fall. So that is Wearingeul, the Star Child with my Asvine V126. Ink pairing number 7, we have Pilot Iroshizuku Toro in my Zodiac Penco Water Lily Koi. This was my first ever Zodiac Penco, and I still love it. I still absolutely love it. All right, so where is my Speedball B nib here? I'm going to dip some in the tarot that's already on my palette and writing the number 7. I purchased this ink sample to compare it to buttered popcorn, and it is actually pretty close, but now I just want to test it to see if it is a good option for anyone, because buttered popcorn isn't readily available anymore from Ferris Wheel Press. And I just want to see if this one is a good substitute for that, not just in color and saturation, but also in writing. There we go. Look at the way that that goes down. Lovely. So now here we have Pilot. Oh, it's actually going down very legibly. Iroshizuku Toro. And this is in my Zodiac Penco. This is the Virgo model in Water Lily Koi. And I believe this is a fine, I think it's a fine architect. No, it's just a fine. Lovely. So now we'll go ahead and paint this ink on the different papers. Look at how yellow and beautiful it is. Although like my brush is a little wet, so there is a little water in that. So then on the Rhodia, it looks so orange. And I feel like out of the yellows that I've tried, the yellows that are leaning a little more towards the orange are the ones that are more legible. I really like this. And I didn't want to like it because I already have buttered popcorn. Do not need this ink. But it's really not an ink that I normally write with anyway. And let's go ahead and do our rose. Almost forgot to turn the camera on. But yeah, what I really like about this is that it is leaning a little more towards the orange, and that really helps with making it easier to write with and making it more legible. Now, I do have to say though, I did struggle a little bit with Ferris Wheel Press buttered popcorn the last time that I used it. Maybe it's just the way that my eyes are with yellow inks, but I'm happy to give this one a chance. Perfect. I was surprised at how much I like this orange yellow ink. It's got great flow. However, there was some slight feathering on my multi-year journal on that Tomoy River paper. So that is the newer batch that seems to have a lot of issues. But otherwise, it's a fun ink to use. I gave the ink an 8, the flow a 9, and the comfort level of the Virgo a 9. For anyone who's looking for a similar ink to Ferris Wheel Press buttered popcorn, I think this is a great option because of the fact of how legible it is, but also it's what makes a yellow more legible is the fact that it's more orange than yellow. And buttered popcorn is definitely more orange than yellow. But also what I like about this one is the fact that it is a Pilot Iroshizuku ink. And Pilot Iroshizuku inks are definitely more of the well-behaved inks as well. And they're more readily available. So let's go ahead and look at the Zentangle. So there's the different paper comparisons, and you can see how much lighter it looks on the Tomoy River paper, but also more saturated on the onion skin, the Rhodia, and then the bank. I really do like it, but then when you're using it in a fine nib, it definitely looks more orange. There is a little bit of shading that is happening here, but definitely that darker saturated orange comes out more than the yellow. But you can definitely see more of the yellow when you add a little bit of water and play around with painting with it. So that is Pilot Iroshizuku Toro with my Zodiac Pen Co Virgo and Water Lily Koi. The next pen and ink combination is Colorverse Brane in my Asvine P126. No, V126. I always get that mixed up. All right, so I put some of this ink on my palette and I'm going to, oh my gosh, the number 8 is going to be hard. Hold on. Oh, look at that. And then I love this type of olivey green, but then with the shimmer, I have been wanting to buy this ink for quite some time, but I just kept missing out on the opportunity. It would either be sold out or when I was ready to buy it, I couldn't justify paying the shipping just for an ink. So the timing was never right for me to buy this ink. And then Roxy just sent me a sample vial of this, and now I think I'm going to have to buy it the next time I'm at a pen show. So we've got Colorverse, Brane in my Asvine, V126. No, I've got that mixed up. This is the P20. This is the P20 because P stands for piston. And then the P20 that I had that I wrote down from a few days ago, this is the V126. Oh my gosh, I'm changing that now. Oopsie. Okay, so somebody said to me the other day, no, forget whose video I was watching, but P20, P for piston, V for vac fill. Wow. Okay, and this is the green marble, and it has a fine nib. Oh, all right. I always got those mixed up. Don't know why. So now I'll go ahead and add this to the paper swatches. Oh, look at that green. Gorgeous. I mean, it does remind me a little bit of Diamine Ink Vent Olive Swirl, and I love that shimmer ink. And actually, Colorverse shimmer inks do work well for me generally. So I'm not afraid to use Colorverse shimmer inks in my fine and extra fine pens. But also painting this rose, I've already painted a couple of roses in my journal and they look divine, especially with the way the shimmer just spreads out in that stroke, light stroke, heavy stroke, light stroke. And it really brings out the shading in the shimmer. And from what I can see, the shimmer is pretty consistent in my brush strokes here, which is lovely to see. Adding a tiny bit of water. Oh, lovely, lovely, lovely. And now I will draw out my grid for the Zentangle using my Michaels ruler. I love this process. And I love being able to use my ruler to draw out straight lines because I can't draw straight lines worth anything. And then I'm going to go ahead with my Zentangle. I just said that I can't draw straight lines, but this whole Zentangle is about straight lines. And one of the things that I've come to accept when it comes to Zentangles is that it's never going to be perfect, and that's okay. It's just about the practice. I had a couple of issues to start with this pen, but I was able to remedy it with a brass shim through the tines of the nib. I love this ink and I am really tempted to get a bottle, but also the Asvine P20 is such a great substitute for the Memento Zero and the Memento Zero Grande. So I gave the ink a 10 because it's just stunning. The flow of the ink a 9 and the comfort level of the P20 an 8. I keep making that mistake of calling this the P20, but I have to remember P for piston, or no, I keep making the mistake of calling this the V126, but it's P for piston, so this is the P20, and V for vac fill. The other one is the V126. But this was a fun combination, and I don't know whether I will keep this pen. I'm at the point in my collection where for me, it's not about the number of pens I have. Even if I do have ones that are inexpensive, I'd rather keep pens that I know that I really, really love. Like this is a great pen and I'm so glad that I tried it, but I don't think it's one that I want to permanently keep in my collection. Not that there's anything wrong with it. It's just, I don't know. There's something about it that I don't think I would always reach for. Maybe that's just a me thing. All right, so let's look at the Zentangle. Look at how fun this page looks. I love, excuse me, the different paper comparisons and how it looks completely different on the two bank papers. And it looks more olive on the, we've got the, oh, there's a fly. Hold on, now I'm distracted. It looks different on the Regalia and then the Aerofil. It looks more olive in those, but then definitely looks more green in these two here. But look at that shimmer. That's one of the things I do have to say about the nib on this Asvine P20 is that it did handle the shimmer well. It did have one hard start, but again, I was able to clear that up with a brass shim and it was fine. And again, and this is a really good value pen for what you get. There's nothing wrong with the nib. It's a great writer. And, you know, for a piston fill like this, it's a great value. So that is Colorverse Brane in my Asvine P20. Oh my gosh, my brain. Ink and pen pairing number 9, we have Amarillo Stationery Blue Suntan, and I have it in my Esterbrook Estie in Once in a Blue Moon. So I'm going to take, actually I already have the ink. Gosh, I haven't done this in a couple of days here. And where is my, there we go. I've put the ink in my little palette. I'm going to take some on my Speedball B-nib here and do the number 9. Now, how do I want to do this? Oh, I like how that turned out. Okay. Then do the swatch. I really like this type of blue, the kind of lighter blue. Again, the hard thing with this though is making sure that it is actually still legible. Then I'm going to do my line widths underneath with my Kakimori steel nib. Oh, there is a little bit of something else in there. That's not good. Oh, there was still green in there from something else. Hold on, let's wash that out. Whoopsie. Oh, now I wonder if I actually contaminated the ink. No, okay. Ignore that. And there we go. That's the proper color. See, even in YouTube, well, actually always in YouTube, there's going to be mistakes that happen. Okay. So then the ink we have is, I'm going to write with the reverse side here. Amarillo, Stationery, Blue, Suntan, and this is in my Esterbrook, Estie, Blue Moon, and it has, I guess, an EF with a reverse architect done by Gina Salarino. Ooh, excited for this combo. So now I'll go ahead and paint on my Tomoe River paper. And this is my A6 Hobonichi Hone from 2024. And then I'll paint on the Rhodia. And then I do have the Endless Regalia, which I think I have a bad batch, and someone has recommended that maybe just switch out the paper. And I am actually thinking of doing that for maybe next month, switching it out for a different type of paper like Midori or some other paper. But that's Regalia, that's Iroshizuku paper. This is Onion Skin, which is probably my favorite. And then we have Yamamoto Bank and then Bank. I really like the Bank paper and the Onion Skin. Just the texture of it and how it crinkles up like that immediately. I love it. And then let's go ahead and do the rose. There we go. I really like that. I love the practice of the light and the heavy pressure. And you can tell that some days it's really consistent and other days it's not. And I like that because then every rose that I paint looks different. So now I'll draw out the grid for my Zentangle, and I struggled with this one. I don't know why. Straight lines were difficult for me today. And then I'm trying out a new pattern from Varney Kikarni. I always want to try and find a pattern, especially for a nib like my Reverse Architect. If I can find a pattern where I can use both sides of my nib or the line variation, I'm going to take advantage of that. And I really like how this one turned out. This was a lovely pairing. I was afraid that Blue Suntan might be a bit dry, but it has an average flow. It's a perfect pairing with the Blue Moon Estie, and actually even my nails. So I gave the ink a 9, the flow an 8, and the comfort level of the Estie a 10. And who was surprised by that? The nib on this is that extra fine with the Reverse Architect, and I love being able to use it with inks like this to show off the shading. I also really love light blue inks like this. So Eric of Amarillo Stationery, if you are watching, love Blue Suntan. Love Blue Suntan. So, oh my gosh, Blue Suntan. I've spent a lot of the day talking, so doing videos after work probably isn't the best idea. Let's look at the Zentangle. All right. I really like the look of the Zentangle, although like the first 2 rows, I definitely screwed up on the pattern. And then you see I got my rhythm in the last 3, but I still really like the way that it looks. And look at the way the ink looks on all of these different papers. It definitely looks lighter on the Yamamoto Bank and the Bank versus Tomoe River paper. And even on the Onion Skin, it looks darker. But I feel like the tone looks more teal on Rhodia, Regalia, and Irofil. There's a slight tinge of more green to those, or maybe that's just me. And then, oh, I love Zentangles. Like you can, especially with this nib, with the Reverse Architect and using the different nib grinds nib widths. Wait, nib variation on the one nib, and going from like a thicker line to really, really fine lines there. All right, so that is Amarillo Stationery Blue Suntan in my Esterbrook Estie Blue Moon. The last pen and ink pairing for inks 6 through 10, or ink 10, is Wearingeul's No Longer Human, and I have it inked in my Mayfair pens. This is the Noldor model in the Tiffany blue, and I've already gone ahead and put some of that on my palette, so let's go ahead and write that out. with my Speedball B nib. Now, this was originally supposed to go in my Heinz pen, but I was having issues with the nib, so last minute change, putting it in my Mayfair pens, but I think it matches really well anyway. Ooh, that's a lot of ink. Put some more on the number 10 here. Lovely. And I'll clean that off so I can go ahead and put it on my Kakimori nib. I really like this purple, this grayish toned purple, and when it dries you don't know whether it's purple or if it's gray. Yeah, I really like that. But also the shading in it is really, really lovely. So now with my Mayfair pen, and actually it matches my nails too. So we have Wearingeul, No Longer Human, and this is in my Mayfair pens. This is the Noldor in the Tiffany blue, and I believe it has a fine, nope, it is an EF nib. Surprise, surprise, extra fine nib. So now going ahead and painting in my A6 Hobonichi Hone. I feel like I've got my process down for these 15 inks in 30 days, which makes it really doable for me. I feel like if I added anything else to this process, it would not be sustainable. I really like being able to compare this ink on the paper samples. I really like being able to use the pen and ink combination for 2 days in my multi-year journal. And I also like being able to use the pen for my work notes. So, oops, I got a little bit extra on there. So my process really is working out well for me. Don't think I need to add anything else. I'm good. I think that's one of the key things when it comes to doing anything, any challenges like this, is to find a way to make it work for you. And I'm always in awe of people who can do the full 30 inks over the 30 days. But also I'm the type of person where once those 5 inks are done, I will clean the pens so that at any one time I maybe only have like 6 pens inked at any one time. And then anything that I'm doing with the pen and ink combination is stuff that I would do anyway, like these roses. Oh, that's so lovely. Another Zentangle here. I really enjoy doing these Zentangles. I start them out actually a couple of days before just to get these pages set up, and then wherever I have a free moment, I do these Zentangles. I actually was doing a Zentangle in the middle of a meeting, and it actually helped me pay attention to what was going on in the meeting. So it's kind of like my little fidget toy in a sense, but I then created art at the end of it. Really interesting how I discovered that being able to do a Zentangle while I'm in a meeting helps me pay attention. This was such a fun combo. I love this gray purple. It flows really well out of this really smooth, extra fine nib, and I loved reaching for this pen and ink combination. So I gave the ink a 9 because it's stunning. The flow a 9 and the comfort level of my Mayfair pens, a 9. So I'm looking back and I think I called this the Noldor, but it's actually the Vanyar model. Vanyar in the Tiffany blue. And what I liked about this combination is just from far away, if you're looking at the writing, yes, it kind of looks like black or gray, but then close up, you can really see the grayish purple tones, and I really like that. So let's look at the Zentangle. How fun does that look? And you can also see in this Zentangle like the shading that's happening as well with that ink. And that's why I really love doing these, is that the shading, you can really see when there's ink pooling towards an area that a lot of strokes are coming to, and then how it's lighter in areas. Really love that. But then looking at the paper swatches, it really looks more like a mauve. And I like doing these, but I also have to remind myself that just because the swatch looks pretty doesn't necessarily mean it's going to look exactly like that in a fine or an extra fine nib. But the base color of this, when you add a little bit of water, is just gorgeous. I will be keeping this bottle. So that is Wearingeul, No Longer Human, in my Mayfair Pens Vanyar Tiffany. Oh, that is not centered. So those are the the pen and ink combos for inks 6 through 10 of my 15 inks 30 days. What did you think of all of these pairings? It's hard for me to decide which one I really liked because I did like all of them and I enjoyed writing with them. And I loved the shimmer, but I also loved the shading in these. And I love the rainbow that's happening here. Let me know which one is your favorite down in the comments below. But I also want to show you, while I have you here, what that rose grid is looking like. That's looking really fun, and I cannot wait to see all of these once they are all filled in with inks 11 through 15. All right, but that is it for me. Thank you all so much for watching. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. If you like this video, please leave me a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. I was going to say describe. Thanks for watching, and have yourselves a great day.